The trouble started 3 months into the joint tenancy of Starlight Relay Station Theta 9, when the grain stores in Sector C began to vanish. Not all at once. Not dramatically. Just steadily, mysteriously, a few kilos a night, as though the station itself had developed an appetite. Commander Zyrex of the Kethrian Stellar Compact had seen war. He had seen a whole breach vent 40 crew members into vacuum without losing his composure. But he had never, in 300 years of service, seen anything reduce his engineers to this particular flavor of despair. "They're back," said Lieutenant Vren, setting a chewed-through ration pouch on the commander's desk like evidence at a crime scene. "Sector C again. They got into the seed vault this time." Zyrex picked up the pouch. The plastic had been gnawed with a precision that suggested intelligence, or at least an enthusiasm for vandalism. "Has anyone actually seen one?" "Yoren says he saw something moving low and fast near the ventilation grates. Said it had too many legs." Did it have too many legs, or did Yoren merely perceive too many legs in a moment of justified panic? "Unclear, sir." This was the trouble with the stowaways. Nobody on the station had evolved alongside a rodent. The Kethrians came from a world without small fast things that bred in the dark and ate everything in sight. Their pest control protocols consisted of sealing doors and hoping. The Valkyrie, who staffed the science decks, had biology that found mammalian fur faintly nauseating and refused to touch the creatures even with a containment glove. The Oxhu engineers had tried sonic deterrents, which worked for exactly 4 days before the rats, for that was what they were, ordinary Earth rats that had hitched a ride in some long-ago cargo shipment and bred unchecked in the station's warm ducts, adapted and ignored the frequency entirely. It had become, against all odds, the single greatest threat to station morale in Zyrex's tenure of command. Which was how, on a gray administrative Tuesday, Zyrex found himself standing in the human quarters common room, watching Mara Ellison repair a coffee maker with what appeared to be a multi-tool and sheer stubbornness. "Commander," she said, not looking up. "You've got the face." "I do not have a face that communicates anything." "You've got the face that means you need something embarrassing." She set down the tool. "Spit it out." Zyrex considered several diplomatic phrasings and discarded all of them. "We have a rodent infestation. It has defeated 3 pest control protocols and consumed 11% of our reserve grain stock. The Valkyrie have begun sleeping with their door seals reinforced. I am told this is, on your world, a solved problem." Mara's expression did something complicated, a flicker of delight quickly suppressed beneath professional courtesy. "You're telling me you've got rats running loose on a space station, and nobody's pest control protocol is a cat?" What? A cat." She said it like it explained itself, which, to her, it apparently did. It did not explain itself to Commander Zyrex, who spent the next 20 minutes listening to a description so absurd he checked twice whether his translator implant was malfunctioning. A small mammalian predator, domesticated over roughly 10,000 years, that humans kept voluntarily inside their homes, not for labor, not for war, but largely for companionship and, as it turned out, for exactly this purpose. An animal whose entire evolutionary skill set was built around finding, stalking, and eliminating rodents with silent, surgical efficiency, then napping for 16 hours as a reward. "You're describing a biological weapon," Zyrex said. "I'm describing a roommate," Mara said. "Look, I've got 2 back on the supply freighter in cryostasis pods, emotional support animals, technically, cleared through every regulation in the book. Whiskey and soda. They've been bored out of their minds for 6 months. Let me bring them aboard, and I promise you your rat problem disappears within the week." Zyrex stared at her. Around the station, in the walls, something skittered. "Hold my beer," Mara added, apparently for her own amusement, and walked off to make the call before he could formally authorize anything. The pods arrived 2 days later. Zyrex insisted on being present for what he privately classified as a controlled biological release, flanked by 2 security officers who looked considerably more nervous than the situation, in his professional opinion, warranted. The first cat, a Whiskey, an orange tom with the dignity of a minor deity, stepped out of his pod, surveyed the assembled alien command staff with profound indifference, and immediately found a sunbeam under the observation window to lie in. The second, Soda, a sleek gray female, did not lie down. Soda's ears went up. Soda's tail went low and flat. Soda looked, with sudden and total focus, directly at the ventilation grate in the corner of the room. "That," Mara said quietly, "is the face you should be worried about." For 9 seconds, nothing happened. Then Soda crossed the room in a single liquid motion that defied the eye's ability to track it, and the grate cover, which had been bolted in place by Oxhu engineers, was somehow no longer an obstacle. There was a sound. It was brief. It was the only sound the rats in Sector C ever got to make in their defense. Soda returned 11 minutes later, sat down in front of Commander Zyrex with the unmistakable bearing of a soldier reporting for duty, and deposited a very dead rat at his feet. Lieutenant Vren made a noise that translator software charitably rendered as a strangled gasp. "She does that," Mara said. "It's a gift. You're supposed to say thank you." "I am supposed to thank the Predator for the corpse." "Welcome to having a cat, Commander." Zyrex, against every instinct honed over 3 centuries of military command, said, "Thank you," to the cat. The cat blinked at him slowly, which Mara assured him was the highest compliment a cat could pay, and walked away to find a better sunbeam. Within the week, the grain theft stopped entirely. Within 2 weeks, station-wide motion sensors recorded 0 rodent activity in any monitored corridor. Within a month, Commander Zyrex found himself standing in a supply requisition meeting, listening to 3 other alien stations on the relay network ask, with thinly disguised desperation, whether the compact had any more of the small Predator units available for transfer. "They're not units," Mara said, when he relayed this to her. "They're cats." The Valkyrie station commander offered to trade an entire cargo hold of refined tellurium for 2 of them. "Tell him no. Tell him to come to Earth and adopt a shelter cat like a normal person, but also tell him no, because Whiskey and Soda aren't for sale, and frankly neither is my sanity if I have to negotiate cat custody with a Valkyrie diplomat." Zyrex found, somewhat to his own surprise, that he had developed an opinion on the matter, and that opinion was protective. Soda had taken to sleeping on the foot of his bunk 3 nights out of 7, a development he had not authorized and could not, upon reflection, bring himself to discourage. Whiskey had claimed the warmest console in the command deck as personal territory, and no one, least of all the commander, had the will to argue with him about it. "You realize," Zyrex said one evening, watching Soda methodically dismantle a length of cargo netting that had displeased her in some fashion only she understood, "that you have solved a problem that defeated 4 separate species engineering divisions by introducing an animal whose primary skill is violence, and now half this station is emotionally compromised by it." "Yep," Mara said, not looking up from her tablet. "This was your plan from the start." "Commander, I didn't have a plan. I had a cat." "Turns out that's usually enough." Somewhere in the walls of Sector C, for the first time in months, there was no sound at all, and on the relay network, 3 more station commanders quietly began drafting cat acquisition requests of their own.